Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MSP. This is Ukraine war. I guess it's breaking news. It happened last night, happened yesterday, but I'm going to do it as a separate news piece to my geopolitical video because actually it needs further explanation and a little bit more depth. And I didn't want to sidetrack that whole video to spend most of the time talking about this. So what's happened? Well, Pavel Durov has been detained, arrested in France. Who is he? So he is the founder and CEO of Telegram. Telegram is this messaging platform. If you don't use it, basically Ukrainians and Russians use it massively. It's where a lot of information comes from, where Andrew Perpetua, for example, derives a huge number of videos to look at from. I can tell you from personal experience that Ukrainian soldiers use that they have different groups on there for their different units and everything. It's an incredibly important platform for comms, and indeed works as a platform for comms on the battlefield. Russians have used it to call in strikes on Ukrainian positions because their radios weren't working, etc., etc. So this is incredibly important. Okay, so the warrant was issued due to the fact that Durov did not cooperate with the French law enforcement officers on terrorism, drugs, money laundering, receiving stolen goods, paedophile content, and more on Telegram. Okay, we're going to look into this in detail because there's a little bit more here than might meet the eye. A lot of Russians are very nervous about this because it is that much of an important platform. So the Russians are very jittery. Rob Lee says Telegram is the main social media network through which open source information is spread about the war. That includes footage, but also opinions and analysis from Russian and Ukrainian military sources. A significant change to Telegram's policies could have a significant effect on the information domain for this war. So it will, whatever happens, is likely to affect open source intelligence and kind of the information that I get to deliver to you, because a lot of what ends up on Twitter has previously come from Telegram. A popular Russian channel says that Telegram is also used by Russian forces to communicate, and that if Western intelligence services gain access to it, they could obtain sensitive information about the Russian military. They also mentioned Discord as well. So it's been talked about on in a number of places here. Russian media monitor, our artillery is doing its targeting through Telegram. So this chap has been arrested, I think at an airport in France. Pavel Durov, the young Russian tech billionaire, so he's Russia-French, who founded VK, so it's another platform, and Telegram, and is the current CEO of Telegram, has reportedly been arrested in France. He has French citizenship in addition to his native Russian citizenship. Christo Grozev says, I wonder what caught up with him first, the undisturbed sale of hard drugs via Telegram, or the undisturbed recruitment of freelancers for GRU's terrorist attacks across Europe. It's just everything this is TF1 reporting. Investigators from ONAF, National Anti-Fraud Office, attached to the Customs Directorate in France, that is, notified him and placed him in police custody. He should be presented to an investigating judge this Saturday evening before a possible indictment on Sunday for a multitude of offences: terrorism, narcotics, complicity, fraud, money laundering, receiving stolen goods, pedocriminal content, etc. Okay, so Dimitri's war translator says war correspondent Sladkov is shocked by the arrest of Pavel Durov. He says that Telegram is half of the Russian armed forces communications. He wonders why nothing is ever done in Russia in advance, namely the creation of communication systems and other military elements. The answer is simple, Comrade Sladkov, because Russia is a crap hole. You thought of yourself too much, and now you can't handle it. So there is some, as mentioned, some real worries from some of the Russians here concerning this arrest. Now, what will happen, I don't know. Will it affect Telegram itself? It will in some way. Even Medvedev has come out of a drunken fever dream to condemn Durov's arrest, referring to some old conversations with him. The numpty is constantly looking for ways to appear relevant. That's Medvedev, that is. Yes, I think this would be a perfect time for Elon Musk to visit France, says Jakub Janovsky. I wonder if he would hand over his controlling share of Twitter to the EU in exchange for not spending years in jail. So this is what some people are thinking going to happen. Okay, let's go into a little bit more detail, though. I'm going to go through two threads, if you like. Well, one is an Anton Gerashchenko piece, and the other is a long and decent thread on what's going on here. So after Telegram founder Pavel Durov was arrested, Russian social media share the following thoughts, rumors, and panic moods. So this is what Anton Gerashchenko has derived from Russian reactions to this arrest. Allegedly, several days ago, Durov asked for a meeting with Putin in Baku. Is that Azerbaijan? And was refused. Telegram is the main information network, communications tool, and Russian means of influencing the world. Telegram is the number one messenger app in Ukraine. It has 300 million users in India and is leading in South and Latin America. Russia's influence on the world might be lost, and that's how key this could be. Durov's arrest might be similar in impact to the British breaking the Enigma code during World War II. Telegram is the only messenger of the Russian army. All their messages might get into the hands of the West. Of course, this is total panic stations, and you just got one guy getting arrested by the French. Is it going to lead to this? Despite Russia's claims that it would quickly create a new messenger, that is impossible. Those who say that are either idiots or simply want to steal money. Durov is blamed for not cooperating with the French police in drug trafficking, paedophilia, and other serious crimes. Within the next few months, many Russian citizens can be blamed or for the same crimes after getting access to encrypted messages. Russia's spy network in Europe may be exposed. So lots and lots of talk about this from the Russians, leading to those kind of panicked responses. Just some details on the arrest coming from Gerashchenko himself. Creator of Telegram Pavel Durov was arrested in Le Bourget airport, where he arrived from Azerbaijan, so Baku. This was reported by the French news channel LCI. Durov was shown a search warrant issued by OFMIN of the National Department of Judicial Police of France on the basis of the preliminary investigation. According to French TV channel TF1, the warrant against the founder of Telegram was issued because Durov did not cooperate with the French security forces, which makes him an accomplice to drug trafficking and other serious crimes. Durov was in Baku at the same time as Putin, but there was no information about their meeting. Durov is also to be questioned, as in no information that they met. Durov is also to be questioned during the suspicions of wiretapping Macron's manager through the secure network Telegram. Amid news of the arrest of Pavel Durov in France, shares of the TON cryptocurrency used in Telegram began to fall sharply. Pavel Durov faces up to 20 years in prison. He will soon appear in court as a French citizen. Okay, so that's a bit of the background. Now let's do some analysis through Yaroslav Ajniuk. Okay, this is a really good, interesting thread from this entrepreneur, geek, and Lindy Hop dancer. There you go. Anyway, Pavel Durov got arrested. Here's what this means for the US, the EU, Ukraine, and Russia from the perspective of Ukrainian US tech entrepreneur who's been covering Telegram's Kremlin connections and security holes for the last 15 months. Here's the thread. Okay, this is the quote from TF1. The detention and search warrant was issued because Durov did not cooperate with French security services and did not properly moderate Telegram, which makes him an accomplice in crimes such as drug trafficking, terrorism, money laundering, child abuse, etc. Okay, so think, this is me talking now, think about Elon Musk. If he's taken away all moderation from Twitter and Twitter is allowed to do X, Y, and Z, which is essentially some criminal activity is allowed to take place on Twitter because of that, then what does this say about the EU and Elon Musk and Twitter, etc., etc.? So there could be knock-on effects here. I was following Durov's story for the last 17 or so years, more or less, since the early days of VK. First as a VK user in Ukraine in 2007, then as a tech entrepreneur in the US and Ukraine in 2012 to 2022. Finally, as a volunteer investigator since 2023. What we're seeing now is sharply negative reaction from the right-wing Twitter users, ex-users, starting with Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson, who are joined by Kim.com and Cobra Tate, so that is Andrew Tate, and others, demanding to free Pavel and stop censoring the free speech. So that's a reaction. Elon Musk is going to be worried, and people using Twitter are going to be worried because they think they will come next for Twitter. These so-called free speech advocates, of course, are not free speech advocates. Indeed, just to add something else I was going to mention otherwise, we have heard that Elon Musk has said, we are working on highlighting more banger content from currently small Twitter accounts. Our current algorithm shows too much from accounts that are big already. What Elon Musk is saying is we are going to curate a way to platform smaller Twitter handles, but of course they get to then choose those people that will be amplified in the same way that Musk amplified his own voice through the coding, so that every time you turn Twitter on, you get what Elon Musk says. And so anyway, there would be panicking from in these kind of areas. However, they all failed to mention that allegations against Pavel are serious. He never complied with the content moderation rules, allowing arms trafficking, illegal drugs, human trafficking, and worse to flourish on the platform, using United Arab Emirates jurisdiction as a safe haven. TF1 reports, quote, French authorities are checking Durov's possible connections to the Kremlin. Also this, quote, Pavel Durov is a French citizen and is not subject to exchange or extradition. And on this topic, we have a collection of selected investigative pieces on kremlingram.org, a non-profit studying Telegram's security and its potential ties to the Kremlin. And there's more behind the hood, a lot under the bonnet. And he advises you follow a couple of sources on Twitter for this information. While there's no smoking gun proving Durov does what Putin says, there are plenty, 50 plus, indirect pieces of evidence pointing towards numerous connections, despite Telegram's and Durov's public denial of such. We've also shown that Telegram has people in Russia doing work for them, whether they call them employees or not. Most of Telegram's revenues come from Russia. They have Russian bondholders, among which money of Russia's top oligarchs and Putin's pals. Media often cite a story of Durov's own telling that he was, quote, exiled from Russia for allegedly, quote, refusing to provide data on Ukrainian users to the Russian government in 2013. We have reasons to believe this might be no more than a cover-up story. The same goes for the alleged blocking attempt of Telegram in Russia in 2018, which supposedly failed, whereas governments less tech-savvy than Russia were able to block it. 2018 might have been the best marketing campaign for a messenger ever. So I'd ask reporters to use the word allegedly or similar wording whenever they tell those stories. If you're only going to read one piece about Telegram and Kremlin, let it be this piece by one of the sources he just mentioned earlier, Tokar_UA, who's a software engineer, journalist, and blogger from Ukraine, for texty.org.ua.eng. So remember, texty.org.ua are the people who brought out that massive report on how disinformation is spread, and by the people in particularly the US and the organizations in the US who are aiding Russian narratives. That was then jumped on by conservatives in America, who then tried to slag off texty.org.ua. But this is a really serious organization that's trying to look into this stuff. A highly reputable Ukrainian media doing a lot of investigative work and data journalism. If you'd rather follow the money, there's another piece by Ihor Pilipiv for Ukrainska Pravda, the news agency, who is funding Telegram, how a decade of unprofitability hasn't stopped the messenger app from growing. And this is looking at the connections of Pavel Durov to the Kremlin and money. Again, follow the money, isn't it? Okay, I'll give you two more. A third one, if you'd rather go for a media better known by the average Western reader, check this piece by Darren Mercedes for Wired. So Wired is your tech news site. This piece is, and I'll link these below, by the way, in the description. So this is a Wired piece. The Kremlin has entered the chat. Russian anti-war activists placed their faith in Telegram. Oops, I will just go and find the archive version of that. So here's the archive version from behind the paywall. The Kremlin has entered the chat. Russian anti-war activists place their faith in Telegram, a supposedly secure messaging app. How does Putin's regime seem to know their every move? Which is incredibly scary there. From February 2023. And also another Wired piece. Not another Wired piece, sorry. And the last one for today, written by me in March 2023. That's not me, that's Yaroslav Ajniuk. That has also deserved a response from Telegram, a piece which featured slightly above on that Spider-Man meme. So, by the way, that Wired piece was also responded to by Telegram, and he then points to a piece in the Kiev Independent. Yaroslav Azhniuk, why doesn't Ukraine restrict use of the Russian Telegram app? Again, for more reporting on Telegram's connections to the Kremlin, check out kremlingram.org and follow them. More good stuff there. Now back to the latest news. Here's one of Russia's top pro-war Telegram channels, followed by some 800,000 people, unironically posting this, quote, de facto, they detained the head of communications for the Russian army, VSRF. In other words, yeah, that is how they're reading it. This should not come as a surprise. Telegram indeed is a main comms channel for the Russian army. Not just a news source, but a key messenger used to coordinate action on different levels, store videos and large files, etc. While a lot of Ukrainian civilian population relies on Telegram for their news, military doesn't use it, preferring WhatsApp and Signal instead. It is formally forbidden to use Telegram in comms in the Ukrainian military, and I have been in contact with a military guy in the last day, actually, through Signal. So Signal is the one that the Ukrainians will prefer to use militarily, although a lot of the military use Telegram, but they use it to kind of share their videos, not to like do comms necessarily, just to share the videos that they've taken. Meanwhile, in Russia, they blocked Signal, widely considered as one of the most secure messaging apps with a two-way encryption, as well as Facebook and Instagram, not WhatsApp yet, which is a top messenger in Russia, but are for some reason not concerned about Telegram. Oh, and by the way, Durov was returning from Azerbaijan as he got detained in France. Do you think he comes there often? Not really. It's just so coincidental, as Pavel was in Azerbaijan a few days ago at the same moment that Putin made a visit there. There was a public rumor that Pavel wanted to meet Putin to prevent Telegram from being blocked in Russia, but Putin didn't want to see him. However, I would not take it at face value and would not be so sure the meeting didn't take place or what the real topic was. In other news, Yekaterina Mizulina, a nutritious Russian public figure, I don't know what he means by nutritious, has a fresh take. Quote, Durov's arrest is targeting TON cryptocurrency, which is used as a wallet by many large Russian business people. Thanks for letting us know how they hide the bloody money, Yekaterina. Okay, what is obvious now is that Russia, both the Kremlin and most of the so-called opposition groups, will be yelling about double standards and free speech violation. This is a regime with zero free press, where journalists and politicians are being killed. Just ignore this. That's a really good point. So, free speech doesn't exist in Russia. So if any Russians shout about free speech, if anyone on a thread shout about this is a violation of free speech and you think they're Russian trolls, then, you know, go take a long walk off a short pier. If other free speech absolutists and advocates like Elon Musk talk about this, well, you know, that's because they are worried that they may get their comeuppance, and possibly for good reason. Possibly they do need to be looked into. Possibly Twitter is a tool being manipulated by Russia and by useful idiots like Elon Musk to spread, unfairly spread, the Russian narrative across the world to fall on fertile ground in terms of low information people or people who really want that kind of stuff to be true. Conspiracy theorists and basically pro-Russian appeasers. It is a challenge to navigate places like Twitter if you are not spending all day every day concerning yourself with matters like Ukraine. It is a struggle to navigate these places and be sure that you're getting correct information on topics that you're not an expert in. So yeah, interesting this, and we'll have to wait to see what happens, but this is potentially a massive event in the information space and could directly affect the war in Ukraine in ways that we might not necessarily be aware of. So I thought it was incumbent upon me to discuss that with you. Hopefully that was of use. Take care and speak to you soon.